If you had a time portal that could take you to your favorite memory of all time, would you do it?
You look exactly like I imagined you would.
Yeah, maybe it's how quickly we all left Jakarta. Some faces are just frozen in time.
Okay, my turn.
No!
I'm actually leaving for Pennsylvania tomorrow.
How long are you gone for?
A couple of years.
Oh.
We don't have to go just yet. We could stay a little longer, no one has to know.
Some of us have to grow up.
At least I didn't give up.
You can't keep running your whole life.
You can't keep denying who you are either.
Maybe I just look for reasons not to want to go back. That's the wanting I hate. Wanting the impossible.
Boom, there you go. That was the trailer for This Time, premiering at the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival this Saturday, May 6th. It's your boy Kuya P. This is Nerds Rule the World. And as you see on the screen, I'm so delighted to have Ken Kirby as well as Sebastien Tobler, the writer, director of this amazing project. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for
great. Thanks for having us.
Again, congratulations. It's here. All the hard work. As a creative filmmaker myself, I know how long and arduous it is to put your heart and soul into a project and make it happen and get out to the people. My compliments all the way. And I'm sure you're going to get all the bravos and the salutations this weekend. But let's talk about it. Let's talk how this all came together. I'm so curious. As I kind of told you all earlier, I literally just got done watching this. And I'm in all the feels after, you know, how you watch a film and all the emotions, and it taps into that universal thing that we all feel, and that's love. And especially, I'm a little bit of an older gentleman as well, and I've had a lot of life experience. Sebastien, you tapped into that. And I'm very curious, kind of like knowing a little bit about the history of both of you all, gentlemen. Amazing press kit, by the way. I feel like I'm connected to you more. I want to know how this all kind of came together, and for the people to kind of get that background before they check out the film this Saturday at the festival. So, Sebastien, if you can, tell me how this germ of an idea sprouted through your life's experiences to bring it to the people.
Yeah, sure. And again, thanks so much for having us. I'm glad you really tapped into the emotions of it, because it's what it is, right? Is the whole thing is an emotional journey. I'm Swiss Filipino, so already, you know, mixed race, multicultural, and then my father was a Swiss diplomat, so we traveled around quite a bit from country to country. So there's a lot of just, you know, new place, new territory, new faces, new relationships, and then boom, it's all gone, right? So that was really, in a nutshell, every time we moved, that's what happened. And, you know, as a filmmaker, I was always trying to answer these questions mostly about myself. Like, how do I really feel about this? And the first script I wrote about it's called Kamikaze Blue. It's about 90s expats in Bangkok, Thailand. And I really want to make that film. But before I could get there, because that's a much bigger story, I thought, why don't we just take the core themes of it and then boil it down to like the most essential piece and really drill into that, make it a two-hander, and ask the question of, you know, what happens, you know, after you live that life 20 years later when you're an adult, when the past comes rushing back to face you, that you've been trying to either push aside or not let go. What happens? What do you do? How do you deal with that? And that's really the essence of it. And that's how I got started in terms of like the thematics and you know, developing the characters from there.
So how long has this screenplay kind of been in the rights, this specific story? You obviously, you know, through experience, you know, you've had this brewing. When did you finally like lay pen to pad and then get into like this pre-production?
Yeah, no, it was fast. It was very fast. I started writing the draft in November 2020. I finished by March 21. And we were in production. We were in pre-production in March 22, wrapped in July 22, and now we're in festival 10 months later. So the whole thing was, yeah, a year and a half. The length of the script originally was like 73 pages. It was slim. And then I had it like, you know, I was in a couple of writing groups at the time, and all the writers like, you need more story for this to be a feature. So I got it to like 84 pages or something. The funny thing is that when we, 84 pages sounds like, oh, it's only going to be 84 minutes or something. The first cut of it was 125 minutes. Obviously way too long. And now we got it down. So I think we ended up only using about 70 something pages of it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All my other filmmaker people like that kind of nitty gritty, those of us in this industry kind of like, oh, how did it come to be? So you center your characters on Colin and Leila. These lovers through circumstances get separated and find themselves together again. Let's talk about casting this and bring in the amazing Ken Kirby, whose work I've long enjoyed in other TV works. So proud to have him on here. There you go. You guys see him right there. Let's lead him in a little bit, Sebastien. Finding your Colin to portray in this project.
We had over 2,000 submissions for the role of Colin, and we were getting pretty we thought that Colin would be easier to cast. We thought that it would be difficult to cast Leila and then build around her. That was the original strategy. So we had a lot of time leading up to looking for Leila. And Colin, we didn't really start until about a couple of months out. And when they started coming in, and we're like, oh no, this is going to be a lot harder than I thought, right? And then we got Ken's submission. And it was a connection through his manager, Kyle Dean. And it was just obvious. It was like, okay, yeah. So it was like we had the top 5, but the gap between Ken and the bottom 4 and the other 4 was like the Grand Canyon. So it was very easy. It was very easy. He brought everything, even in his tape. It was just really clear that he really embodied the character, gave it a face. I don't write with a face in mind. I don't have a body type or a face type in mind. I have an energy in mind. I have an emotional thrust in mind. I have the way they talk, the dialogue, the way they present themselves, the intelligence, that they have. That is what's in my mind. That's what I'm looking for. And he brought it in spades.
I agree. All right, Mr. Charisma, we were talking you up right now, Ken. I hope you like that lead in right there from your director right there. What do you think when you get this script? You've been, doing a lot of great TV work, and now here comes this script where you're the lead. What did you think of it when you first came your
well, first it was really exciting to, in the indie space to have opportunities to audition for leads is always something that, at least at my stage in the career, it's that you don't get it very often, let alone a project like this, which is so personal. Like when I read the outline and what the script was about, I was like, there was like an ego inside me that was like, if I don't, literally saying to myself, like, if I don't get this, like something's wrong. Like I may just give up on the industry as a whole, because it just felt very specific and personal, even though it was, that these two, kind of soulmates were torn apart in Jakarta. I lived in Hong Kong, and I left because China was taking over in 97. And so having to restart and third culture kid and all those things that come with moving and having your life have to shift around, especially between Asia and North America, I feel like. And he, Colin was moving out of his place, and I was literally doing a renovation to my place in West, and I was going to move out and tear the place down. So it was almost scary how similar some of these themes were in the script, that it didn't feel like I had to, it felt very honest, and there wasn't a lot of searching into oh, how do I act these feelings? Because a lot of the feelings and themes of the film, I feel like I was going through or could relate to very heavily, and were already still in me, or very close to home. So it just was it felt like something I could bring a lot of truth to, and something that I could be very honest in portraying, and it's a slice of life movie. So I think a lot of it is about, having that backstory and having it be truthful. And unless you've kind of lived that life, it's hard to explain. I can't, my friends growing up I try to explain it, and they just, to grow up, and everything from the foods, the culture of growing up in Asia. And I remember I took my one of my best friend growing up in high school. I don't know why I bring this story up, to dim sum, and like in grade 10, and he was just like, looked at chicken feet. They took his chopsticks, they gave him a fork. He didn't even say anything, and they just automatically gave him a fork. It was like, both those cultures I had kind of figured out. Not to say that that's in this movie, but there's something about like experiencing both cultures and like what that does to you and how it forces you to kind of move on. But there's like a sadness to it. And I think that comes through also in Colin in this movie. So
I dig that. But it got me thinking while you were talking, though, because you could so relate with the character from like an acting standpoint. Do you recall when you, I don't know if you did an in-person audition or if you did a tape, do you think that worked for you, for that life experience worked for you, and you were just able to just like be raw with it, or did you like overthink it when you submit, and how you performed it?
Yeah, no, it literally was almost like plug and play, because I was able to, when there were some monologues and some nostalgic moments in the script that were in the audition scene, and I was able to just literally just thought of my time in Hong Kong and like when I was there and the things I missed, and I wrote down little notes. And even though it was Jakarta, I was just playing with that like substitution, and I miss it all the time, and I want to go back there. And I feel like going back to Hong Kong, I would feel like a sense of whole again, like anybody who grew up living somewhere for such a large portion of time and being forced to leave for really a reason that was not in your control by choice. It wasn't. I think we would have continued to live in Hong Kong, if things were stable and it was you're talking about a huge takeover from China, after years and years and years. So
yeah. Wow, it's crazy how like life reflected all of that. I'm sorry, Sebastien, you're about to say something.
No. I just wanted to add in that, like, I think the clincher was when we got a chance to talk to Ken via Zoom, because he was on set at the time. And it was that conversation that we're like, yeah, that makes just that back and forth that we had, just outside of the sides, outside of like tapes, etc. I think that's a moment sort of, Theresa, my producer, Theresa Chiu, that's when we knew what we had our call on, basically. And I have to also say, it was also just about the energy he was willing to bring already right off the bat. He was just like, yeah, I'm down. I'm just down, let's do this. And that was all before meeting in person.
Love it. Okay, so you found your Colin. Let's talk about your Leila, who's not here today. Would love to meet you too, Leila Perry, sometime if you ever are available. Casting your Leila to have this soulmate relationship with Colin. Can you talk about Leila real quick, Sebastien?
Yeah, it's difficult, because we weren't looking, I think I mentioned earlier, we weren't looking for a look. We weren't looking for, any particular person necessarily in terms of like physical appearance. But we were looking for people that could really hold a conversation. It's a movie about two people primarily talking. If I can't enjoy the conversation with you on a one-to-one, how do I expect that my dialogue is gonna, you're gonna be able to use that to hold the audience for a full feature length, right? For a full 90. So that was the key part. And obviously you got to start with like, how do they come off in the tape, etc. And there were submissions where we're like, oh yeah. And now at this point, we were starting to put them against Ken, right? We were going to see like, okay, who would match up? And there are a ton that matched up in terms of like, oh yeah, they look like a great couple together, but it was too easy, right? It was too easy. Like what we didn't want was no conflict. That's completely the opposite. We didn't want it to be a perfect match. This is, it's not, there's no, antagonist. There's no traditional antagonist in this story. What it is two people with conflicting viewpoints. And so the turns in every scene have to be about agreement and then argument, right? That's ultimately what it's got to come. That's the dramatic point. So while there are a lot of submissions where we thought, oh, this person could really match up, it would match up almost too well or not at all. And we needed sort of like that that conflict. We needed that edge. It needed that contrast in order for the relationship to come through. And I think when we got Leila's submission, it was a surprise. It was like, oh, we know she was. I think her headshot, she was blonde and she had shorter hair, and it was just like, oh, this could be very interesting. This could be a very interesting, choice because, there could be a nice friction between the two of them. And Ken has a lot, has an established career, and Leila, is bigger in the indie scene, and she hasn't had a leading role yet. And so we thought that could work really well too. That creates that nice little like friction. And so we had a conversation with Leila, and then we did a couple more in-persons, and we did a chemistry, and it worked out really well. And it was a good match. It felt right. It felt right in terms of like where the characters were in their life. And I'm really happy. I mean, because honestly, we got to a point where like, we don't have who we want, and we need to be really specific. We had to be the right combination, or else it was over. There was no film to be had. It doesn't matter if we had the money, it doesn't matter if we had the locations. If these two people cannot connect and have a solid argument and, come off like their intelligence isn't coming off the screen, we have no movie. So that's why it took the longest. It was the longest part of the process. It was also the most nerve-wracking because, it's the honest truth. Yeah. Theresa and I both decided we're not moving forward unless we have the right to, no matter what. We weren't going to compromise on that. And fortunately, we did. They were great.
Yes. I definitely agree. It's the core of the film. Let me also remind folks again that this time premieres at the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival this Saturday, May 6th. And if you want to see it coming your way, look at the descriptions below. I'll add some links to Sebastian's IG, Twitter, so you can follow him and find out when it's going to also come your way or further distribution. I want to segue from Sebastian's comments about Leila to you, Colin. Well, to you, Ken. I'm calling you your character's name now.
Same person this week. No.
There you go. When they cast Leila and Leila Perry to be your scene partner, you're the core of this whole story. Your relationship has to meld. It has to show all of this to carry this film, as Sebastian said. I'd like to get some of that juice real quick. That BTS, behind the scenes. What was it like those first interactions, building up this chemistry? Because it has to play out. You both are going to carry this whole film. Can you just talk about that initial meetup and just how you and Leila kind of built the chemistry to rock it in this project?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was smart. We have some without giving too much away, we have some like flashback kind of moments a little bit in the movie, and I think we kind of led with those initially. So like day one, it was kind of a tight, it was quick, and then we were going, and indie films, so we were like off to the races pretty quick in a tight schedule. So that is a worry, like building that chemistry and having that feel believable. Like, oh, I've met you for 3 days. Like, all right, now we're supposed to be like longtime star-crossed lovers our entire lives. So, but I think, keeping that, we were able to rehearse a few times with Sebastian. That was really crucial. And like, just, go through the script a few times and go through, some yearbooks that Sebastian had and some really just kind of fun, lighter things to build backstory while we got to know each other. So it wasn't so like, go in and here's the pressure of doing a very intense scene right off the bat to like have this be believable. We kind of got to like go, build our characters a little bit, even though it was a shorter time frame. And then once we started shooting, it was easier because we started with like some funner, lighter stuff that I think allowed us to build some chemistry. And then, just kind of trust where you are, even though our characters are in these different places as well. Like my character is dealing with a lot of different stuff than she is at the point when we meet in the movie later on.
I think, didn't we set you guys up on dates too?
Yes, we did go on a couple dates. I forgot about that. We went to an art museum, did a little walkthrough, and then we had a little sushi dinner. So me and Leila were able to. It's easy.
Break the ice a little bit
because it's double Leila, so it's great. Me and Leila, we got to be familiar with each other that way and get a sense of it. But also, it felt like it felt nice because, you know, we were getting to know each other, and it was almost like, it felt to me like how some of the initial scenes in the movie felt, where, oh my, is it really you? Like, we're getting to know each other. There's a little bit of that awkwardness with anybody, especially after all that time. So still having those feelings of actually met her, and then like letting the floodgates open once you have that comfortability, whether that's, you know, you used to get used to each other, have a couple drinks, loosen up. Okay, now let me really say what I wanted to say. But I feel like us meeting before was better than just going into it cold turkey, for sure.
Yeah. There's also one thing I really want. I remember when we were doing rehearsals, I was adamant that we stayed away from any, like, I was like, don't hold hands. I don't want you to, you know, all this stuff that like you wanted, like, because I wanted to capture the first time of all that on camera on day of, you know. So I'm trying not to give away too much, but basically any kind of, like, you know, physical touch, we were like, I was like, let's just don't do that right now for rehearsal. Try to avoid it, because I want it to be like, you know, like the first time when we get there.
Yeah. I like that. I like kind of like these layers and different things to just kind of, you know, you want to see that come to life within the story. Another aspect of this film that I really enjoyed, you know, because again, this is, you know, centered, I think it's a universal theme with love. You know, it's a romantic comedy. But there's also a layer that I think we can also talk about, though, that I'd love to talk about, as mixed kids. The three of us are all, you know, third culture kids, as it were. Putting that influence into the script, and what did it mean for you all individually? Ken, with you, you know, you got cast for this, and then you saw that as an element of the script. What did you think of it, you know, being a mixed kid yourself?
Yeah. Being a Hopi or mixed Asian heritage, you know, mixed heritage Bill of Rights actually is something that Sebastien sent. And, you know, anyone who's mixed, actually, I would recommend like Googling it and downloading it and just having a look. You know, I even sent it to a few of my acting friends, and they were like, wow, this, you know, some of them got really emotional because they're like, this is all things that I've been dealing with. And I wish like someone had like said this to me when I was younger, that it's okay to feel like you don't quite belong. And, you know, I dealt with it when I first moved here, just personally, you know, especially, you know, in some of the Asian acting circles, I didn't feel quite Asian enough. And then in some of the, you know, I feel like with the castings are like, last name Kirby, what? And then it's just like, what would it be better if my last name was Lee? Like, you know, like you feel these things, but you are down the middle, you know, and my dad is very British with a thick British accent. And, you know, my mom does have a Chinese accent and is very funny, but you know, the two, I'll be out with my dad, you know, we'll be out at a bar and people they'll be completely shocked that we're related in the slightest, you know, and that's been my whole life. So I'm sure you guys each have your own, you know, tons of stories like that, but it felt that was also part of this movie, you know, this like melting pot that LA is with culture and diversity, and to have like, of course, like two people that meet. And it's a much more of a, you know, international school thing in Asia. Like in Hong Kong, the international schools are big and everyone goes to school there. And Sebastien went to an international school in Jakarta, and that inspired, you know, I'm sure Colin and Leila's relationship. And those things are unique to kind of that mid 90s, early 90s, late, you know, around that time over in some of those countries in Asia, you would find it. And then people would move, whether it's Vancouver, Canada, Los Angeles, California, but they would, you know, they were forced to leave Asia for whatever reason, you know, and that kind of shapes who we are, even though it's more our parents' generation that really had to deal with the consequences of it.
Very true. Sebastien.
Yeah, you know, honestly, when I first started writing the story, being mixed wasn't a factor yet. I was really focused on that life of moving around. And then when I was looking for, whenever I start a story, I don't usually have like I usually have a question, right? That's where I start. And then the characters then I give the characters a lie, and they each have a lie that they won't let go of. And as I fill in, like, how would they react to each other's lies? What would the factors be? And then I'm like, well, they're mixed. So, and then that started playing into the conversation as well. But I have to give credit to Leila and Ken, because when we sat down to do like table reads and go through the script together, they were like, you know, they both really wanted to bring more the conversation with regards to being mixed into the dialogue. And I thought that was a great idea. You know, I'm not very precious with my words, so to speak. I'm precious with my themes, and I'm precious with sort of like the scene, you know, in terms of how it should play out, but not the dialogue necessarily. And I think that I really, really, really appreciated when they would come up and say, "Hey, this is a great place to bring up feeling lost in your sort of makeup as opposed to just your physical space." And that really resonated with me. And I was like, you know what, let's bring that out a bit more. And then so what we wove that in, because it really does make sense. It's almost like we have this external thing that's thematic to this internal thing. And it worked really beautifully. I think that, you know, the Mixed Race Bill of Rights, that was a game changer for me too. When I found it, it was actually, I think it was Ken's idea. There's a moment where he was like, why don't we throw this in somewhere? And so I'm not gonna say where, but there's a moment where they use it. And it comes through, it's subtle, you know, it's subtle, but these subtleties in a film that's very nuanced, they make a big difference. They make a big shift in the performance and how it plays out on screen, how they interact with each other. So yeah, I mean, that's what great collaboration is. I mean, Leila and Ken were fantastic collaborators in this whole thing.
I love it. I love it. Man, I think there's so many things that people are going to connect when they finally see this film. And then I hope that it reaches a wider audience outside of this film festival this weekend, because I know I want to, you know, talk all the things with all of my friends and family about this project. So many layers, so many parallels to like my life right now that I could go even longer, but because my time is limited right now, Ken and Sebastien, I'd like to close out with now that it's here, this ride, this journey. What are you looking forward to the most when people finally see this film and see your performances and see your work? Just the vibe and the message that they get when they finally check out this time. Ken, if I can start with you.
Yeah, I think it would be, you know, it was almost therapeutic for me to do this movie, and cathartic, I guess. I was able to find release and like, oh, you know, there's more of me out there, and like people are telling these stories, and like it's okay to feel a little crazy sometimes, or to like not understand like why you might be a certain way, and because that has to do with, you know, moving around so much when you were a kid, and especially if it's like, you know, a third culture kid from like, you know, somewhere similar. And some of these friends that I know from Hong Kong that I've managed to like stay in touch with like over the years, like there is this like underlying thing that, it kind of messes with people a little bit, and that, you know, and I think it's okay. And there's more people out there. And I think this is it. You know, it holds on to the love in the movie, and the love is still there. So, you know, I think for me, it kind of has that feeling that, you know, no matter what you're going through, you know, if you're mixed and it's bringing up a bunch of feelings, or your life's kind of ended up in a bunch of different ways because of how you had to shift around, like, you know, those people that you met and those things, the relationships that you had, like there is love there, you know, and don't be afraid to go back to it, and trust that you can feel whole, you know, at the end of all this. And I think this movie kind of touches on all those things and will impact everybody, like just as a love story, but I think it'll impact people who come from maybe a similar background, who don't have a lot of these stories for them out there yet. And this will be one that'll hit home, especially, you know.
Let's go. I love it. Good answer, Ken. Sebastien, writer director.
I might just write that down. Take it.
Right?
It's recorded.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, you know, especially with, you know, we're coming out, we're out of the pandemic. We're, you know, we were all locked down for a little bit. We were all just disconnected for a little bit. And I think many of us are still kind of getting used to the chaos that is life right now. And it's very chaotic times. I think that the big thing for me, I hope that people take away from the film, is that, you know, there's no right or wrong. There's only decisions. We only make decisions. We only have, you know, you know, our choices in life, and none of it's right or wrong. It's just certain things have certain, you know, reactions or consequences, and whatever we decide to do is we can't disengage, right? We can't disengage from the present. We can't disengage from those decisions. We can't disown, you know, our lives, right? We have to just sort of embrace it through the chaos and through the stability. Both, you know, both are not easy. Stability wears on you sometimes. You know, you start to question where you're going. Chaos is exhausting, right? And it's always that balancing act. But no matter what, you know, we're all just in this journey. We're all on a journey. It's just a different one. But there is no wrong answer, and you're not alone, no matter what.
So true, gentlemen. This was a pleasure. Again, I enjoyed this film. I enjoyed the different layers, the parallels to my life. I went very introspective. I'm forgetting the word right now, but I felt some feelings, and that's what you want when you watch a good project. And I'm so happy I was able to take that journey and enjoy just everything that it gave to me as a fan of entertainment, as a person of color, AAPI, mixed kid. Just all of these layers was just so beautiful, and I can't wait for the rest of the world to see it. And if y'all are in the West Coast this Saturday, Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival, you can check it out when it makes its world premiere. And then I'll have all the links in the description below so you can follow Sebastien and be like, hey, Sebastien, when is it coming my way? I need to see this.
Yeah, for sure. We're also going to be up in San Francisco. We're May 21st, 6:30. We'll be screening as part of the Cam Fest. And yeah, if you're in the Bay Area, hit us up. We'll be in Oakland.
We'll be in Oakland.
There you go. Check it out. Support Ken, support Sebastien. Check out this wonderful film. And gentlemen, I wish I had more time, but I know a little place. It's like a record store. It's a DVD store. You might meet somebody that you used to know back in the past, but he knows a lot about a time machine. And if you talk about that time machine, he can help bring you back to that time that you thought fondly of. I'm going to talk to him so I can talk to both Sebastien and Ken again, hopefully down the line, and we can reconnect. I'm going to get that time machine because I would love to have further conversation with you both to just give you your flowers and highlight your projects. This was a lot of fun, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks so much for watching.
Definitely. Ken Kirby, Sebastien Tobler, This Time premieres this Saturday at the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival. Check it out. Stay tuned. Again, all the links in the description below. I'm Kuya P. This is Nerds Rule the World.